Welcome back to Mind Pump TV. I'm your host, Adam Schafer. Got a good one today for you guys. This one is an exercise, or two exercises actually, that Sal's going to be going over today that are probably one of the most common exercises that I see people mess up when they try and do it. There's some little details in here that I think a lot of people miss when they're actually performing these two movements. So the first exercise that he's going to get into is the stability ball and how to do crunches on the stability ball. And then the second one he's going to do is an active plank. Now, both of these movements, incredible movements when it comes to building a very strong core and also developing your abs. So these are two staple movements that we recommend that everybody puts into their program. But when you do these, it's very important how you do those. So pay close attention to the mechanics and the cues that it gives you. This is a great video. If you guys like this video, please share, subscribe. We drop knowledge almost every week.
Okay, so check this out. A lot of people, actually everybody, let's be honest, wants to have a nice midsection. And a lot of people work out their abs all the time in the gym, but almost nobody does ab exercises correctly. One of the most popular exercises you see in the gym are crunches on physio balls like the one I'm sitting on right now. I've almost never seen anybody do these properly. Now, before I show you the right way to do these, we first need to understand the action of the abdominal muscles. Now, keep in mind, muscles typically attach at two general points. And when muscles contract, they bring those 2 points closer together. So my bicep, for example, attaches somewhere down here in my forearm, somewhere up here in my shoulder. So when the bicep contracts, it shortens the lever. It pulls those 2 points together. Same thing happens with the abs. They attach at the rib cage, they attach at the pelvis. And when the abs contract, they shrink that space. They don't do this with your hips. This is my hips. This is not my abs. This is hip flexors. They do this here at the spine. They also extend quite far back. You can actually get a nice back bend and stretch out the abs. So you actually have a decent range of motion with your abs. And when people are doing crunches on a physio ball, they turn it into this weird herky-jerky type of movement that, yeah, you'll feel in your abs because they're stabilizing you, but you're not getting the most out of this exercise. And believe it or not, this exercise, when done properly, is actually a butt kicker. It's very, very difficult. So let me show you what these should look like. I'm going to turn sideways so you can kind of see what's going on here. So first off, this is what I see a lot of people doing in the gym when they're doing crunches. And what you'll notice here is I'm kind of rocking back and forth. I'm getting a lot of hip flexion and extension and very little flexion and extension here where I'm supposed to get it to work my abs. So not really getting the most out of this exercise, not even getting half of what I can get out of this exercise. So let me show you how to do this the right way. First and foremost, you want to get into your position so that your lower back is on the top of the ball. Now this ball is a little bit big for me. I'd probably use a smaller one, but it'll work. First thing you want to do is you want to lock your hips into place. And so what I like to tell people to do is push your hips up, squeeze your glutes, and keep them there. The reason why you want to lock the hips is so that I don't turn it into this kind of movement, which will happen once you start to fatigue. So keep the hips up the entire time. Now, what am I going to focus on? I'm going to focus on this part of my body right here, where the two attachments for my abs are. So hips up, I'm going to extend, so I separate those 2 points, and then I'm going to crunch, and I'm going to bring those 2 points together. So I can do that with my hands behind my head, or across my shoulders, or even reaching forward. It really doesn't matter. That's just more or less resistance. But what I'm doing is I'm keeping my hips locked, I'm extending over the ball, and I'm squeezing over the ball. So let me show you what that looks like, or how I would do this in the gym with my hands behind my head. So full extension and squeeze at the top. Full extension and squeeze at the top. Here's another little tip. If my hands are facing forward, it's shortening the lever, so it makes it easier to do. If I put my hands on my shoulders, a little bit more difficult. If I want to make it really hard, extend your hands over your head, really lengthen the lever, increases the resistance, so now I don't have to hold a weight on my chest. Now, that exercise, probably the most commonly done incorrectly, but there's a second exercise that I see people screw up all the time. The other exercise everybody screws up on is the plank. In fact, it's super rare to see anybody do this right on Instagram. I see people do this all the time and I shake my head. They're working their hip flexors and not really working the front side of the core. So Let me show you what it typically looks like on Instagram or in the magazines or what people do in the gym. So get on the forearms, get on the toes, and this is the position that they hold. Looks fine, right? Back is kind of straight, keeping my core tight. Not quite. I'm actually working my hip flexors by doing it that way. Here's how I want you to try these. Watch what happens to my tailbone. I'm gonna tuck it and squeeze. I'm tucking my tailbone, squeezing my core, and what I've done is I've shortened my abs and forced them to do more of the movement and actually reduce the activation of my hip flexors. And let me tell you, way different when you do them this way. So again, instead of doing this, tuck your tailbone, actually round your lower back, squeeze your abs like you're doing a crunch, and then hold that position for 30 to 60 seconds. It'll work your abs much more effectively. And that's again because the abs contract here and squeeze. And what I'm also doing is I'm deactivating the hip flexors a little bit, because when my butt's up a little bit, it's the hip flexors that start to do a lot of that stabilization. Do these the right way and you will see far better results than doing them the more commonly done wrong way. Two great exercises, two exercises done incorrectly most of the time. Change how you do them and watch what happens to your progress. Share this video with your friends who like to work out their abs, who probably are doing it wrong. You'll blow their mind, I promise. Also, if you have any questions, put it in the comments below. And finally, subscribe to this channel. We post new videos all the time.